Hello YouTube, my name is Mariah and welcome to episode 6 of Mother's Mysteries, where we dive in to all things related to Sophia, Gaia Sophia, and the beautiful mysteries that she has as our primordial mother of all creation. And today's episode, I want to go into why all mammals are born female and the importance of the female genome with this planet. So something that I really appreciate about the Sophianic mythology, which comes from Gnosticism, the pagan mysteries, Celtic mysteries, this Sophianic mythology is like the seed, the root of all of these other mystery movements, and now we've been able to put the story together and revive this story largely by the work of John Lamb Lash. If you haven't heard of him and you're listening to my stuff, you are going to eat his stuff up. It is amazing. He is he calls himself a modern day Gnostic. He's got a lot of books, and he's also got a lot of talks for free on YouTube, which I would really recommend. And his website is nemeta.org, where you can find so much free information. There's some really good paid courses too. But there is now this revival of the Sophianic mythology, which answers a lot of questions that we didn't even know we had. Like, for instance, for me, I grew up in a Christian household. I went to a Christian school. My parents aren't religious anymore, but my dad was a pastor. My mom was a Bible thumper. And so I knew that there was something bigger than me, and I just pictured it as Sky Daddy, as one often does in the West, or in Abrahamic cultures where that's the main religion. And I kept feeling like I would, pray, and I would call, and I'd be like, and there would just be nobody on the other line. So that's a bit of my own personal background as to why I like this stuff so much, because I would call and then I'd be like, why is this like this? And then it would just be, just accept it, and there was never any real answers. But the more that I dive into the Sophianic mythology, the more questions I just get answered, just like boom, and I didn't even know that I had that question. Right? And there's just a lot of why is in this mythology, and as humans we need mythology. Like mythology is kind of the oldest thing we have. Like myths go back for so long and we still perpetuate them. We still honor them. We still honor the mythology of the Greeks. We still honor the mythology of the Mayans. And we can just brush it off as some fantastical stories, but they don't come from nowhere. That's not just a fully imagined scenario that these myths portray. They are real events that are told in a mythopoetic way so that we can enjoy it, and we can enjoy that storytelling and be together when we do it. And I just picture like storytelling, especially in this mythopoetic sense, around fire, and maybe it takes a couple days to get the story out, and that's perfect because we're so used to everything being so fast and just boom, blank, scientific, unimaginative answer, and it doesn't access all of us as a human. We are very imaginative, and we need that mythology to drive us forward. It gives us our why. So don't mind me, I'm kind of looking at some notes here because I'm got some splaining to do. So my first disclaimer, other than check out John Lamb Lash, is that you should also check out the Nag Hammadi Codices, specifically on the origin of the world. And there's a couple other books in there that are very, very significant Gnostic texts. There are some other texts in there that are kind of weird, but it's basically like the Bible. It's just a bunch of books together, and I believe that these were the books that were left out of the Bible, and they specifically say Sophia is the world, and she is the light, and all these things. That stuff can be found in these ancient texts. So it's not just all speculation on my part, but it's definitely an unfolding of my own experiences, supplemented by this information that I keep coming across, and it lights me up so much that I can't not share it the more that I learn about it. And to explain why all mammals are born female, I would like to go over Sophia's story again. And I believe this is in episode 1 where I do a rundown of the story. And most of this is from John Lamb Lash, and I have seen where he's picked some stuff up in the Nag Hammadi codices. Wow, it's really windy today. I've seen where he's picked up on the pagan mysteries, on Hindu stuff. So, and he's a comparative mythologist, so he kind of puts it all together, and in his own, shamanic journeys and trances that he does, he facilitates meetings with Sophia, like her actual body. And I really recommend his work because he has really nailed some stuff that is very significant to me and has happened to me in dreams before I listened to his stuff. So I would check him out if you haven't yet. So let's start from the beginning. And if you haven't heard this before, great. If you have heard it before, it's always so beautiful just to get the refresher on the story, because it really is a beautiful story that can actually drive humanity forward in harmony with our planet where we are. So, the beginning. This is before Earth, okay? So, we are starting in the galactic core. This is called the pleroma by the Gnostics, which is the Greek word for fullness. This is also what they call heaven in the Bible, I believe. And through the galactic core, there is a realm, you could call it, where there are creator beings of incredible size that we just cannot even imagine, that live through the galactic core, and it is their job to make creations in the form of like nucleic acids and like that kind of creation that goes out and then grows. They make these creations from the galactic core, and they make them together in pairs, male female pairs. I don't know how many live in the galactic core. It's been said that there's 13, and Sophia is the 13th aeon. And these creator beings are called aeons by the Gnostics. And they are essentially huge torrents of creative, intelligent energy that has the ability to not just know a lot more than we do because they made us, but can also interact with their creations in a number of ways, in new ways that they're exploring. And something that I really love that JLL emphasizes is that the creations that they make are experiments. So the idea that there is a creator God that is perfect, that I love when it's windy. I hope it's not that the idea that they are perfect is actually very toxic to humanity, because it makes us think, sorry, something in my eye. Because it makes us think that we are created in God's image and we need to be perfect as well. And, you know, the Christian Bible, Abrahamic religions, they all say you're born a sinner, and unless you give your life to Jesus dying on a cross, or I don't know, unless you give your life to Sky Daddy, then you're going to burn in hell. And you need to be perfect to do it, because if you're not perfect, then you need to confess, otherwise I won't forgive you and I won't let you into heaven, blah 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 blah. Like, that is just hella toxic, not good. And it is just, it's used, you know, they used that for a reason, for humanity to think that they were, and that we're powerless, you know, and that there is this overarching godlike entity that is judging our every move because everything he does is perfect. It's just not true. And I really love that, because, you know, it makes me feel better about my life. You know, when I make a mistake, I'm like, but then I'm like, you know what? Everybody makes mistakes. We're just rolling along here. So, Sophia is a young Aeon in the Pleroma, the galactic core, and she and her male partner, who John Lamb Lash calls Thelete, he used to refer to him as Kudos, and I've heard that a lot from not just JLL but other Sophianic followers, that her divine counterpart, her Aeonic counterpart, is Kudos, meaning more to do with chrism oil. And it was their task, their experiment that they did to create the human genome. And they do this together by, like, wrapping around each other, creating all of this energy, and then they create a nucleic acid template that can then be sent off through the galactic core to gestate and to go where it needs to go based on the filaments in our space. So this is what they were working on. They gave humanity everything. They gave us genius potential, and it was their delight to imagine how we would be, how we would love, how we would interact, how we would experience, how we would enjoy their other creations that they've made. However, because they overdosed us with genius potential, we were having issues. And it was kind of like we just couldn't get it under control. That no matter what happened, we would get carried away and kind of ruin our species. And so, as per the Gnostic text, this has happened 10 times. Us now on Earth, we are the 10th, transitioning in body into the 11th version of humanity, or as it's called in the text, anthropos, which in the Bible is, and other texts too, anthropos is often translated as man from Greek, because it's a Greek word for man, but it also means humanity. I think it's better to think of it as humanity. So because of 9 failed past attempts, and the number 9 is very significant, I think, attached to Yggdrasil, the tree that Odin hangs himself on, the tree of life, aka Gaia. I believe that she's attached to 9 other realms. So that's an interesting synchronicity. And this being the 10th version that they were about to send out and see how it goes, Sophia, because she is a young, loving mother who created her beautiful creation, us, she wants us to succeed, you know? Imagine if you were a young mother and your child just kept, screwing up in school, and you're like, how can I help them? How can I show them that I'm there for them, that I want to help, and that I can help them actually reach their full potential. So Sophia, being a huge creative force, she started to think of these things and start to imagine, specifically imagine with her mind, a solution for humanity and how we would thrive with all of the beautiful traits that we were given, how we would actually use them. And because everything that she does is creative, being a huge force of creative energy herself, and she did this without her partner. She did it without her male counterpart, and they are supposed to imagine together so that there is a balanced outcome. You have male, female, you got two perspectives, and you work together to make one beautiful product, humanity. So they should consider solutions for humanity together to create, a balanced perspective. However, Sophia was worried, and she did this on her own. She started to imagine solutions on her own without her male counterpart. So this is the beginning of our world today, essentially. And because she is a creative force, like I said, and her dreaming imagination mind, you can think of it in a sense of like manifesting with your imagination. The way that we can do that is a gift given to us by them, and we do it on a different scale. I believe we can do it on an incredible scale. However, the scale that the Aeons do it on is like unimaginable. So she does this, and as she does this, she falls out of the pleroma into what's called the kenoma, which is our Milky Way galaxy. This is where the creations that they make are sent out, and they go to gestate, and here we are in the physical world. It is not normal for an Aeon to drop from the galactic core, the pleroma, especially a young Aeon like Sophia. So this is the first anomaly, and she fell because she did this without her male counterpart, and also she wasn't thinking ahead. She was like, and this is what it's described as, she was just so audacious, so passionate, that like her passion just pulled her into the scenario where she could help her creations, us humans. So when she fell through the pleroma, her electric plasmic huge torrential body disrupted the material field of the kenoma, and that is how the archons were created. And something that's very interesting, and JLL points this out, is that there was this guy in the 1800s at some point who was doing like electrified crystal experiments, something with crystal and water, and he would electrify it, and he produced these little tiny insects out of nowhere just by sending off the electric current through the crystal. So it's a thing it is a crazy thing that happens, but it's a thing that happens. And Sophia's presence in the kenoma, our material realm, did that. And I believe it's because of the deficiency of the male. She ended up, what's it's described as in the text is she had an aborted fetus. She fell through the kenoma into the kenoma and had like a discharge of an aborted fetus, and they say that's what it looked like, and which reminds me of the gray aliens. And so this is important to know. This is like when the archons were created. So they are like before planet Earth is here. So Sophia is still falling through space, through the Milky Way galaxy. And she is like, oh my God, could you imagine? OMG. She's like, what am I going to do? What the hell is happening to me? You know, she's just like falling. And she didn't realize what happened at first because it's not anything that she's ever done. And also, now this is her dream body. It's kind of like she made an active dream and is now responsible for controlling it and for moving it in the right direction, like you would a lucid dream. And so as she's falling, the archons that she created by accident, there is one main archon who is described as having a snake body and a I think they call him a draconis. Like, this is like the reptilian Draco stuff. It's originally from the Gnostic text, believe it or not. And he and his minions did not know that Sophia existed, okay? And so he starts to gain agency for himself because he has a tiny sliver, a little fraction of Sophia's intelligence being from her body, from her plunge. And so he is in the solar system while Sophia is still falling, and he's like, whoa, I am God. I am the God of this place. I own everything. Everything that moves is because of me. I'm doing all this stuff. And if there's anybody else, show yourself. Of course, Sophia shows up, and she shows up in the waters beneath him, is what it says. And she's like, bro, right here, like, I'm your mother. You couldn't get away from me if you tried. I have a lot more power than you, so I don't know why you're saying all this stuff, because the stuff that you're seeing is stuff that I'm doing, not you. And then he's like, you will have no other god before me. There are no other gods. I'm so jealous, blah, 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 blah. Sound like anybody? Christians, Jews, Muslims? Sound familiar? So Sophia had to let him know that she existed, okay? But she's still falling and trying to imagine what she's going to do to help humanity. And so as she's still falling, now the lead archon is like, actually there is somebody else more powerful than me, so let's throw her off her game. So Sophia needs to be in like really sharp concentration because she knows where stuff is in this galaxy, but she's never been inside of it. You know, it would be like, I use this analogy all the time. It would be like if you created a Sims world and you were like compelled into your computer and had to interact with the people in the computer. Like it's an experience that you don't expect to have. And so he saw her as a threat, of course. And as she was concentrated, every once in a while, it would be like, you know, a swarm of flies coming into her space being like, which would just throw her off her game. And so she was like, fine, here is a little tiny piece of my intelligence that is going to let you just make your own world and you can do whatever you want, but stay in your world because I don't need you interrupting mine. Which is like a super nice thing to do, you know, if you have an insect problem, infestation, you're not going to be like, hey, here is like a little home for you now, like please don't attack the rest of my home unless you got a so they would throw her off her game, and she's still trying to navigate where she's going, and she knew that the Orion system would be a good place to connect to another part of the galaxy just by the way that the filaments move through space. And so she was like, okay, I'm going to head to Orion. And as she's heading to Orion, she takes a hit from the Archons. And what that does is it shears the human genome that she's carrying with her. I probably forgot to mention this before, that when she fell, she had the human genome with her. And so she was carrying it to bring it somewhere safe. But the Archons threw her off of that. And so when that happened, this is the original split of the sexes. Humans were designed as hermaphrodites. And that's where all that kind of mystery school teaching comes in, where you see the man and the woman in the same body. Yes, it does mean gender balance at sometimes. Sorry about the dogs. But in this Gnostic creation story, the split wasn't supposed to happen, or at least not like this. And what was sheared off was the male part of the genome, and this was deposited in the Orion system. So this is where men come from. Don't you just love this story? Like, it is incredible. It's just amazing. And it, for me, it fills in a lot of questions that I had, because I've always seen stuff about these people coming from Orion, these kingships coming from Orion, and it makes sense now that it was men, and they eventually came to Earth, and I'll get into that in a second. So Sophia loses the male part of the genome, and it's deposited in Orion, which is where it gains its own life, and kind of, they do their own thing over there. So she continues to fall, and she's like, okay, well, I can't go here because they've already knocked me off this path. I just need to keep going, and I need to be somewhere that is connected to Orion so that I can eventually, get the male genome and work it out. So she continues to fall and discovers that the Archons have already created their fake realms, their abodes that she so generously let them create. And what are these abodes? They are the 7 dead planets of our solar system. Yes, if you've ever wondered why these other planets don't have life, it's not just some crazy anomaly, it's that were created by the Demiurge, the lead Archon, and he's unable to produce life, and so he just made this, actually what they say it is a copy of what's in the pleroma and how they operate in the pleroma, but he didn't know it was a copy. He thought it was just all his genius and that he's the only one, and blah blah blah, ego trip. And I see a lot of this in the New Age spiritual community of thinking that you're the one doing every single thing, and if you just add the element of there being more intelligence than you, it's just really, really powerful. So he created this system, and he thought that he brought the sun. Just not true. Sophia was the one with her creative energy to pull in the sun, because she thought, I need a 3-body system to support humanity. I need a sun, I need a satellite, the moon, and I need a planet. We need a planet for humanity to live on. So as she had this solution in mind, she's still traveling from Orion, and she accidentally gets caught and trapped in the Archontic solar system, our current solar system. And she's like caught in the middle of it, and you know how the planets are. She's just like, and that is where her body started to form the Earth, carrying the female part of the genome. So the female genome is embedded with Sophia in this planet as Gaia. As the planet started to form, which is her material body that comes from her dreaming, as it started to form, life started to form. And life was female. Specifically, human life was exclusively female. This is the mythology that we get of the Amazons, the Amazon ladies of Greece, I believe it is, and the dyads and the nymphs and all of these women who are a part of nature. This is where that comes from, because the original inhabitants of Earth were exclusively female, and they were reproducing in ways that I believe we still have access to, but in very earth connected and supernatural ways. Like, for us to go back to that, we have to really get with the earth and Sophia as a part of the earth. So these women that were living on Earth, Gaian women, were expressions of nature, and because the female genome was embodied in nature, the female body appeared as a part of nature. Mermaids, come on. So they were living for a super long time, very happy, just creating beautiful creations, creating the animals, giving them names, giving them purpose. And eventually men came. Eventually, because of the way that Orion and Earth are connected through different plasma filaments through Earth, electric universe theory, check that out if you haven't yet. Men from Orion had developed their shamanic hunting skills, and they were able to traverse the solar system, and they, in a sense, like, it was more than astral travel, but it was kind of like they sent their astral bodies into the atmosphere, and then they became physical once they were here. But anyways, they didn't come to Earth for women. They didn't know that women were their divine counterparts. They came to Earth to hunt, because they're hunters. And at first, the Gaian women were like, okay, you know, you can hunt a little bit, like, that's not a problem. But these beings are our babies, and we made them, and we love them, and they're magical, and they're different expressions of nature as well. So of course the men fell in love with the women and the women were falling in love with the men, but the men started to overhunt. Typical. And eventually the Gaian women, stewards of the planet, who knew the planet and could work with her magic, they were eventually like, okay, you can't kill like that, and there's gonna be some rules. If you want to kill our creations, our animals, then you have to kill one of your own. You know, they thought that was fair. And to be honest, if you're an invading species from somewhere else and you're coming to hunt resources, animals, beings of love, then you know what? Don't do it unless you also want to sacrifice one of your own. And this is where sacrifice comes from, because I believe that they did. This is also where that gender rift happens, where women are so connected to the planet, so connected to the planet's intelligence, and men have to work harder to connect to her. And in mythology, you know, the shaman has to be a part of nature, literally has to be reborn through a woman's body, through nature, in order to properly live here and learn the magic of living here. For example, Odin on the Yggdrasil tree, which is the tree of life, aka nature, aka Gaia. He had to hang there for 9 days, where he learned about the 9 realms, which I believe to be past versions of humanity. And he had to reach down to the well of memory, or wisdom, I believe it's also called. And that was where he got the runes, which is his magic, and he hung on the body of Gaia and reached her intelligence, which is her mind, Sophia, to receive her magic. Osiris had to be dismembered and reborn through Isis as Horus, fully illuminated and able to live on this planet. And I'm not saying that men don't belong here. We are the same creation, that we just got split up, and men are from somewhere else, as per this myth, which to me makes a lot of sense. And it makes sense in the sense that I don't find, and obviously this is just, it's a generalization, but I don't find that men have the same connection to the planet as a living, breathing mother. And that connection is very important. And it's not that they can't have that connection. I just believe it takes a little bit more work than a woman who has it innately in her body. And they get jealous of that. Hence witch hunts, the Exhibit A. And that's been going on for many, many, many years. So this is a really long-winded way in a recap of Sophia's story to express why the first 2 months that you are in your mother's womb, you are a female, whether you're male now or not. It's because Sophia became the planet Earth, became nature as our setting to survive, with the female genome embedded in her as well. And that was just a happenstance. And women arose from the earth as a result, and knew the magic of the earth as a result, because they were so completely embedded with it. And this is why now every single being, every single mammal, every single human has to be female to acclimatize to this place. It doesn't mean that they're male forever. It's just the 2 months of gestation that they need to be female. And then I believe the soul of the male then comes through at the 2 to 3 month mark and begins to change, towards the male baby in the body. So yeah, don't you just love that story? I just think that it connects so many dots, and to have such a grand narrative that is beyond Earth, beyond the solar system, yet still intimately involves Earth, intimately involves humans, is just such a beautiful thing. And the men came and they brought their kingship, they brought their authority, they brought those things that are just not a part of nature. And this is what we're finally ready to get rid of. And it's happening right now because Sophia is waking up within her dream, is becoming very, very lucid, in her dream. And she is literally like knock, contacting me, you, if you're watching this. She's contacting anybody who is listening, anybody who can pick up her frequency, which is literally just a desire to know her, a desire for beauty, a desire for the love of nature. You open yourself up to her to receive her wisdom, which is the fountain of wisdom coming from this earth, which comes from the pleroma, comes from heaven, which is the galactic core. That's my favorite thing about the Sophianic mythology, is that there are places where things happen and reasons for the things happening the way that they do. It's not just like suddenly God created this and God created this. And you know what? Why it's written like that in the Bible? Because Yahweh, the demiurge, the lead archon, that's how he thought he created. He thought that he could just be like, boom, 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 which is not true, because that's not who he is. Sophia Gaia was doing these things and he took credit. Which is why it doesn't make any sense, because he doesn't know how it's happening. Which is why it's really important for us to know how we create, so that we don't fall into that same trap of ego and ignorance, and we realize that we are an integral part of our mother's body as this planet. And when we are manifesting and we are putting out our thoughts into the atmosphere, it is her body that is receiving them and creating them for us, from her pleasure, from her desire for us to thrive. Which is why you can literally manifest anything that you want. And the more that you manifest from your heart center, which is where she's in your body right now, especially as a woman. When we drop into our heart center, you can hear her voice. And this is when people say that, oh, it's your intuition, oh, it's your soul, oh, it's, it's the light inside of you. It is, but wisdom is all of those things. So when you can access wisdom and expand on who wisdom is, who she is to you, what she wants from you, then you start to connect all the dots to be like, oh, actually, she's been, giving me signs the whole time, and she's been producing synchronicity on the outside the whole time. I can hear her in my heart this whole time, and it's not just me. I used to think that it was just me doing all this stuff, and I need to not just hustle, but I need to hustle in my manifestation and stuff like that, when it's not just me producing all this stuff. And thank heavens for that, because I can't operate the way that my cells heal a cut, or the way that my hands contract and expand whenever I'm talking, while also talking, breathing, and beating my heart. No, that's not anything that I do. That is my subconscious, aka Sophia. It is her mind making all of these things move in a perfect and harmonious way. And it is us that can get in the way of that, for sure. We can pretend like it's us doing everything and that we need to do everything, and then that's when we hustle too much and we burn out, because we forget that connection to our earth, our planet, as our support, as the body of the being who created us and wants us to thrive. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing to follow with her, and to take Earth to the next level, and we're making that jump from Anthropos 10 to Anthropos 11 in our bodies. It's not going to start over again. We're not heading for another cataclysm. Otherwise, Sophia wouldn't be intervening like this. She is intervening personally to the people that need to hear her, that want to hear her, and that are ready to receive her, so that we can open up the talents that she gave to us uniquely in order to spread more beauty, spread more love, spread more compassion, joy, and healing. Like those are the things that we are meant to experience and share with one another, not just meant to go to a job all day and get distracted and stressed and worry about money. Like, that is not what she intended at all. Money is a control system designed to keep us in debt. And I don't mean there shouldn't be a system of value. I believe in trade for goods. I do believe in valuable items, but I don't believe in pieces of paper that are connected to nothing, And so when we connect to her and we learn who she is, we develop more trust, so that when she asks us to do the thing that we know we're supposed to do, that we've always wanted to do, but we just don't feel like we have the confidence, we have the trust in her to take that next step, so that we can create a more beautiful place for all of her luminous human beings of light. And Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. That is the end of episode 6, Mother's Mysteries. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if it's just like super wacky tacky tobacco and like so far out of your realm, or let me know if it is resonating with you, if you had some aha moments like I've had with this story. And something else I want to add is, you know, the idea of everybody being female on Earth at first is supported by that scientific evidence that we are all born as female. You know, there's beautiful things like that with this story, that it's just, you can have this concept and there's like actual real proof that it's like that. And I never got that with Christianity. It was all imaginative, all just pure blind faith that he was the one who created everything. And this is not true. He got it from his mama. And with that, I'm out. See you later, YouTube. Bye.